Hey sis.
Hey sis.
Today we have on two content creators who are taking the YouTube world by storm.
The YouTubes.
Yes. We want to welcome Tyler and Geoff to Hey Sis Eat This. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
We're very excited. So Tyler Chou is an attorney and has been in the business as an entertainment lawyer at big corporations like Disney and BuzzFeed, but she eventually moved on to take law in her own hands. And she started her own business where she represents content creators. And you are a content creator as well.
Yes.
And you have the creator's attorney and you have really fun videos. I've actually loved watching them because you kind of dissect all of these cases that are happening in entertainment and what the different sides of them are. It's really, really interesting. And I do have to tell you, we have a little nickname for you.
Okay.
And we're
She's
wondering
probably heard it before.
if you have what we call you, Tyler the Creator.
I get
Cute
that
name,
all
cute
the
name.
time.
I bet you
Shoot,
do.
we
First
thought we
time
were
hearing
so
it.
witty and funny. We were like, okay, we're going to having Tyler the Creator on the podcast today, but it is our Tyler the Creator.
Yes, that is
And
true. So Tyler, tell us a little bit more about your channel and your business and what you're doing for content creators.
Well, thank you for having us. We're so honored and excited to be here. So I'll tell you a story, which I haven't actually shared on YouTube or in the world quite as much as, I started my YouTube channel because I had a midlife crisis. I really did. I wanted to, I asked myself, like, what is my creative legacy, that I'm leaving
Sure.
behind? My husband designs these beautiful airports all over the world. My kids are my greatest legacy, but I wanted to do something creative. I was an English major in undergrad at Berkeley. I wanted to be a novelist, but I went to law school because I was practical. I needed to take care of my parents and my younger siblings. And so I kind of gave that dream up. But about a year and a half ago, I said, I want to do a YouTube channel.
that
Which is like,
creativity never dies, right?
It never dies.
Yeah.
And so, for a long time in Hollywood, because I've been an attorney in Hollywood for 16 years, it was enough for me to think, well, I'm helping other creatives achieve their creative vision, right, through their films. But then at some point, I thought, I want to create something. So what is that thing? So I was watching this creator called Ali Abdaal, and he had this program called the Part-Time YouTube Academy. So I was like, I'm going to do it. I did the course and it was very slow. It was like crickets. So my first couple videos, like nobody watched. But my third video blew up.
Wow.
I was at Vid Summit 2 years ago and I met up with my friends, the Keto twins. And so one of them said, since you used to work at BuzzFeed, there's this like Try Guys drama that's happening. You should jump on it. So I went home. I made a 3-minute video about what do you guys know about the
case,
story?
The case?
Well, Ned Fulmer was one of the founders and he was caught cheating on his wife with one of their employees.
Okay,
and
juicy.
So I was like, okay, so what's happening is they probably have an executive agreement. He's probably being exited. There's probably a morals clause where they say they can unilaterally, exit him. And so it went viral. I think it's like 400,000 views.
Oh,
but
wow.
for my channel that had maybe had 200 subscribers at that
Sure.
point. It just blew up. And so I made 2 follow-ups on the Try Guys because the SNL did like also a skit on them. And
Okay.
I kind of called them out how tone deaf they were.
Right.
And those 3 videos got me to 10,000 within a month.
Wow.
So I was like, I'm hooked and I love this. And I love being able to give people kind of the legal analysis.
Right.
As
You're
to what's happening.
educating people.
Yes, because people just didn't know like what's happening here.
But at the same time, you're also nurturing these careers for other content creators as well, in addition to your own channel.
I'll share with you guys, which we haven't.
You have a
even
lot
gone-
of food creators, which we love,
Yes,
which is
we
exciting.
do. We do have a lot of food creators, and you guys will have to have some of them on.
Oh,
'Cause
we are. We're
Yes,
so excited.
Janelle Eats is one of them. She's fantastic. She's got great siblings, and yeah.
I love it.
Well, Geoff, we're not forgetting about you over there.
Appreciate
You're also in the creator world, and I know that you're involved in your parents' farming business, which is a whole other food-related topic we're going to get into. But tell us a little bit about what you have going on right now.
Yeah, appreciate you guys inviting me. But I think it kind of has a big long story to it.
Yeah.
So it kind of deviates from the understanding that what YouTube is.
Yeah.
It's kind of more of a library, and I kind of wanted to show later down the line my kids who my parents are. I had a fateful event when I was younger, about 10 or so, I only got to saw my grandma once. She was on a deathbed, unfortunately. And I kind of wanted to portray my mom and dad to my kids and see who they are. So that's kind of the ambition and the idea of YouTube, is basically seeing who their personality is and
That's cool.
what their love
like
is.
Like an archive.
Yeah.
I love that. That's sort of what we talk about all the time doing this podcast, is that, we feel like we're creating these memories of families, and we talk about our parents all the time, and we have our parents on. And when our kids, grow up, they'll have these archives to go and listen to us and hear the history of their family, So that's really sweet, Geoff. Well, the two of you are 15 years apart. Yes. Which we'd like to point out makes you two the biggest gap between siblings we've ever had on this show.
It's a big gap.
It's a big gap.
It is.
So, Jeffrey, tell us a little bit, or Geoff, tell us, Geoff. Sorry. Geoff, how did this happen? How are you so far apart?
I don't know.
I know how it happened.
I don't know.
We always say, my sister and I like to tease him and say, he was an accident.
I was the accident.
So how many siblings are there total?
So we do have a sister in between, and she is 5 years younger than me.
And 9 years apart from me.
Right. Yeah. So your parents just spaced everybody out.
When I was younger, I had like 3 moms. So 2 older sisters and my actual
just
mom.
unfortunate for him, I think. Yeah.
A little bit.
Well, you learned a lot, and you probably have that sensitive side because of the women in your life.
Definitely.
And that influence, I think, is really awesome.
Yeah. Men need a little, sister love to help them.
Definitely. I think a part of my success from my life is just seeing how they operate in life and just not falling through their alignments. So I think that was like a really big blessing when I was younger.
That's really sweet.
That is.
You're so nice.
Yeah.
My sisters raised me that way.
So what was that relationship like growing up with y'all 15 years apart? Tyler, you probably have a little bit more perspective since you're the older sister.
Well, it was really hard. I think we didn't have much of a sibling relationship, right? Because by the time I left for college, he was only 3.
Right.
And so, but we've always been very close. I made it a point to always stay connected with him. So my parents and I immigrated here from Taiwan when I was 7. My parents still to this day don't really speak English much. And so there was no one really reading him bedtime stories. So what I did was I bought us each copies of Harry Potter, and every night I would call home, because this is before iPhones, right? I would call home
while you were in college,
and I would read him bedtime stories every night.
Tyler, I just got the chills.
So
That's the sweetest sibling story I think we've ever heard on this show. So you really were like a mother to him in a lot of ways.
More so. Yeah. And I think now, we are more siblings. And he's an old soul. I never feel like he's 15 years younger than me. But I've always tried to stay close to him, even though I was far away. And I came back for law school, and so we definitely got to see him grow up a little more. When he was in high school, I had already met my husband Terrence, and so Terrence became kind of like a role model sports wise for him. Seeing what that looked like. So we were almost like a second set of parents. For him, a little bit,
mentors.
Yeah. And did your mom treat you differently? Because you're older and you're the oldest, and she probably had, that relationship with you, especially having immigrated with you. And then your brother comes along. Was she more lenient on him or?
For sure.
Worlds apart. Yeah. Worlds apart.
He's like the baby, and he kind of can do no wrong.
Oh yeah.
She
and
cooks
the boy.
him, and she cooks him everything he wants. And I think my sister and I and him had a very different childhood, because we grew up working in the swap meets. My sister and I did.
Oh, wow.
And by the time he came around, that was kind of it was kind of ending, right?
Yeah,
you saw it for a little bit, but he never had to run the swap meet stall by himself the way my sister and I did.
Well, wow. I want to get into that. So like we mentioned, Tyler and Geoff are in the food world adjacent. So their parents own a vegetable farm in Ontario, California, right? I'd love to hear a little bit more about the farm. I know you're heavily involved in that, Geoff. Tell us a little bit about the farm.
I feel like a farm's a very unique place now. Being in Southern California, you don't really get 2 acres of property to live on.
Right.
I think I had a very unique childhood. I think we both did.
Yeah.
It kind of came along with the work, where when I was younger, I really did not like the farm, where we had to work probably every day.
You had to get out there and work it.
And that's probably why we have the work ethic we do, is because we're used to working 7 days a week.
Wow.
But, I didn't really have a childhood where I had friends to go hang out with, nor did I think my sister. And I think that made it hard for us.
Sure.
Looking at the everyday generic American life, where you have the 5 days and the weekends, the friends to play with, we didn't really have that.
Right.
And, I think that's like a big part of my journey, is where I get to kind of step back and realize the gifts that I got when I was younger versus what I didn't get.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a really enlightened way to look at it, because you could be bitter and angry,
Oh, yeah.
but instead you're recognizing the work ethic you got, and that you could get that you actually have the skill level, the skill set too, right? Working with growing fruit and vegetables, that is quite a much what is your involvement in the farm today?
No, it's basically taking over from my parents. I mean, my parents are pretty much older. My dad's around 80 now.
And don't you grow very unique vegetables there? Are they specifically like Chinese vegetables, or what are some of the things that you grow?
Majority are Chinese and Asian variations. I think basically what my dad grew up with, and he kind of immigrated those vegetables to America.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, one of them is just a loofah. I think majority of our crop is loofah. I think we have like 8 vineyards of loofah. So, yeah.
Is that good? Tasty?
My mom knows how to make it. So, yeah.
Tyler, tell us about how your family went from the swap meet to farming.
Well, so I think the farming was always a little bit there, like recreationally. Like my dad loves, farming and he's very almost Zen-like, Buddha-like. He just loves being able to like go in the garden and just be at peace. My mom can sometimes be not so peaceful. Like,
Hurricane.
Like I think it was like an escape for him.
Yeah.
And then the swap meet, just died because Amazon came along, Walmart came along, Target came along, and just kind of killed it.
Big
right,
box.
like there was no need to go to those swap meets, and so they just started doing that, and so that grew to like a lot of different. I mean, they have also all these fruits, it's like peaches and berries and, avocado and guava. I mean, it was just like everything. We always ate from the farm, basically, whatever they grew.
Mom would walk out there.
Exactly.
So they already had the land.
Yes.
Then.
Yes.
Wow.
We always had the 2-acre land, and it was an old horse farm, and so the soil was very
good
fertile.
manure. Yep.
Very good.
That's really interesting.
Soil.
And so you just grew up with a very farm to table experience before it was cool.
Yeah, that was just normal to us. It wasn't like now it's like fashionable.
Right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's so cool. And so a lot of those vegetables and fruits are still on the property.
Yes.
And where do you all sell them to? Is it to grocers? Is it to private, chefs, or what's kind of that business model like now?
It's kind of more to grocers, majority of it, more friends and stuff like that, word of mouth, but majority is grocers. I think
Chinese grocers.
Yeah, Chinese grocers.
Right.
Yeah.
I think a reason why mom's cooking is so great is because it was literally from the backyard, just freshly picked.
Right.
I think that's like the allure, and that's I think like what makes like our childhood so special is basically, I ask people like, do you know where carrots come from? Like, yeah, they come from a vine. I'm like, what?
Yeah. We want to hear more about Mama Sherry. And as you all mentioned, she and your dad immigrated. So tell us a little bit about that immigration, and you were a part of that, and how did they choose California? I don't know if they came directly to California or how that came about.
So there's a really fascinating, almost like it's
Fateful.
Story where so when I was born, my dad was actually one of the wealthiest men in Asia.
Wow.
He made computer chips for toys, in Japan, toy manufacturers in Japan.
Oh, wow.
I had my own bodyguard, and because in Asia it was like very common to kidnap the kids of wealthy businnesmen and ransom them.
And this was in Taiwan?
In Taiwan. And then, but when I was 5, one of my dad's vice presidents embezzled about $1 million in cash, which was a lot of money back then. Sure. And then one of his warehouses burnt down. So in Taiwan, the insurance policy only covers the structure. And
did it burn down? Like, do you think someone burned it down?
I don't know. We'd never know and knew. And so my parents basically declared bankruptcy and came to the US with, I think, $500 to their names. They lived in a cabin in Big Bear with no running water or electricity. And I actually was left behind.
In Big Bear.
In Big Bear.
Wow.
And they just had a random friend who was
Happened to
living
be there.
in that
Yeah.
area. And he had this cabin and he said, you guys could go live there for free for like
for
a year.
listeners who don't know, Big Bear is just a small ski town
Right.
in
Yeah,
California,
resort
which
town.
is
And
kind of a dot on the map.
Right. And 40 years ago, it was like
Yeah.
nothing,
Yeah,
right? There was
especially.
nothing out there. And so my parents came here first and left me behind in Taiwan with my grandma for 2 years, which actually left some traumatic scars for
Sure,
me, you
I
know, because
bet.
I thought
Sure.
my parents were gone.
Right.
So that's something I've
How
had
old were
to.
you?
I was 5,
Okay.
and so I came when I was 7.
Okay.
And I didn't know this, but my mom later on shared with me, like, you know, I just couldn't get a green card for you. Like, she was like telling the immigration officer, oh, like, I want to take her to Disneyland. And he's like, she's too young. She won't remember. And so he blocked me from coming.
Oh.
And so for 2 years, like, I was just traumatized
Yeah.
thinking my parents were gone.
Oh my gosh.
But so we came here and my parents started working in the swap meet. And like Geoff was saying, you know, we never really had like a typical childhood, right? And my sister and I worked in like, we woke up at 5 a.m. We would drive, you know, to a swap meet. We sold things like toys and like artificial flowers. That actually
Sure.
became our business, was artificial flowers.
Wow.
And so for all of my childhood until 18, when I went to, you know, Berkeley, that's all I did. We never vacationed. Like we didn't even know what that was, right? Like until I went to college and law school, I didn't know that people vacationed. So, but we had a very happy childhood. I mean, you know, my dad actually started growing bamboos, which was before the loofah. And so for many, many years, it was 2 acres of bamboo.
Wow.
And it's very hard work. I mean, you know, like to extract the bamboo, you have to hit it like with a hammer and a chisel. And it's just like,
it's rough. It's
and
hard.
so they would sell it to Chinese supermarkets, what they still do with the loofah, but it's, you know, like probably 5 to 6 months out of the year. So, you know, we grew up with a lot of great food in our lives.
Let's go back to your mom and her childhood. Did she grow up in Taiwan as well? And how did she meet your dad?
So my mom grew up super poor, one of 8. Her dad actually passed when she was very young. And so my grandma, like who was illiterate, like didn't read, like she was washing laundry for families.
Oh, wow.
And my mom actually had a really tough childhood. I mean, she didn't share this until with us recently, but she was basically like given away to a family to like as a servant.
Yeah.
And she
Wow.
was like probably 5 or 7.
Oh my gosh.
And who knows the abuse that she suffered, you know? So,
Right.
and I think she met my dad, you know, through friends and, you know, and I think they had a very wild love story.
Oh, yeah.
We should probably share some pictures of them when they were young.
Oh,
just
that's so
just beautiful,
sweet.
just such a beautiful couple. And they had a great love story. And I think that's why my mom came with my dad, you know, to be with him, to support him when kind of everything fell apart, you know. So it's a great love
Yeah,
story.
it's very
It's really
beautiful.
sweet.
Yeah.
That is. That's so sweet. So, Tyler, you and Geoff obviously had pretty different dinner tables because you weren't really at the same one.
Or maybe they didn't have very different dinner tables.
Maybe that's true.
You
We
know?
don't know. But we want
Maybe
to
Mama
know.
Sherry kept it consistent throughout
Maybe
the
she
years.
did. It sounds like it was filled with great food. But, you know, y'all were, when you weren't at the swap meet, was there a dinner at every night at 6 o'clock? Or how was that? How was that like at night?
I mean, I think so. Now I think back to it.
Mom cooked every night.
She cooked every single night, and it was always like 5 or 6 dishes of like,
Wow.
you know, like you imagine going to a Chinese restaurant, but
family
like
style.
family style. And it was just the most amazing food.
Yeah.
My mom is the most amazing chef. We always joke, you should open up your own restaurant. And she's like, no, that's like the hardest work in the world, which is true.
It's true.
And so, but she is like, anytime we bring friends over or anything, they're just like, oh my God.
I
This
wonder
is
if
like
she
the
grew
most
up cooking.
elevated.
Was she having to, if she was working for another family
I
at
think
such
so.
a
I
young
think
age,
she
I wonder
started
if she
pretty
learned
young.
to cook.
I think she always said, like, you know, I have 60 years experience cooking. So
Oh.
you're at the tail end of my masterpiece.
I think my grandma, which I know Geoff doesn't have memories of, was an amazing cook as well. And so they
passed
just,
down.
you know, I think it just got passed down to her. And it's just, you know, some people are kind of naturally talented at making
Yes.
food. My mom doesn't look at recipes or anything,
Right.
but she can literally look at a video and say, okay, I know how to make that. And like, she doesn't need necessarily like
Right.
all the ingredients.
She's an intuitive
Mhm.
cook.
Yeah, I was cooking a steak the other day, and my mom was just sitting at the dinner table, and my mom was like, "The heat's too high." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
By just hearing like the sizzle on the steak.
Just hearing
I was like, "There's no way." And I take off the steak. I'm like, "Oh, it's a little bit overdone." I was like, "That's when I knew like I gotta listen to mom when cooking."
Yes,
Mama
yes.
knows best.
Yeah.
Mama
She
Sherry
knows.
knows best. Well, I want to know, you said 6 dishes. How long did that take her? What time did she start cooking?
She's fast.
Yeah.
Really?
She's fast.
She's
You can
very
probably
fast.
do it in 20 minutes,
Yeah.
right? Like she's just like, it's one after
Because
another.
I'm so intimidated by
too.
Asian
It take-
cooking so much. I feel like there's so many ingredients.
So many ingredients,
and
yeah.
that, you know, there's kind of steps in
Yeah.
there that are just not familiar to me.
Well,
so
I'm thinking about that. I mean, a lot of it is stir fried,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
stir fried vegetables are actually really fast. It's
Yeah.
like
It
the
cooks
heat,
fast.
it's the
It's-
garlic, and then you put the vegetables
Yeah.
in, and then it's the technique, right? It's like what
right.
you
It's
said
all
about
technique.
like
Yeah.
the heat and how long, and I mean, and a
Yeah.
little bit of water. Like she just knows, right?
How to kind of-
So like maybe 3 dishes are vegetables, so that's fast.
okay.
Do you want to talk about mom's like most famous dishes?
Yes, we
yes.
would definitely
She-
want to hear about the most famous
She
dishes.
has a lot. I mean, Tyler would know more, but she used to have like big dinner parties like every weekend. She would
Really?
invite, like,
Who
I
would be
mean,
invited to these dinner
like,
parties?
probably like her coworkers, friends. Like the house
Yeah.
was filled like with like 20-ish people, right?
Wow.
They always entertain. My parents, even though a lot of times we grew up, kind of poor, they always just open up their house to anybody and everybody, and if
beautiful.
anyone ever needed to borrow money, if they only have $10 left, they'll give 5 to someone. I mean, that's who my parents are, right?
Yeah.
Like their gift, they're very loving, food is
Generous.
is like, I think their love language.
I think my favorite dishes. I guess dishes that I would want to eat before I die would be mom's eggs. She has a very special way of making eggs.
Like scrambled eggs
Yes,
or
like
poached?
it's like a Japanese/Taiwanese style of making eggs.
It's very special. Like,
Yeah.
so my kids love it. It's like there's some special way where it's basically just egg and soy sauce.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the heat is super, super high, and she puts it in, and it's literally in there for like a minute. It comes out, and it's just like the most creamy, silky
Ooh.
scrambled egg you'll
Ooh,
ever
Savory,
have.
with
yeah.
soy sauce.
Yeah, with
Yeah,
soy
and,
sauce.
and then you put it over a bowl of like steamed rice. It's
It's
the
not
most
too
amazing
salty.
Do
thing.
you put
Perfect.
you put oil in there?
Oil
or-
first, yeah,
Okay.
and then the oil gets really hot, and it's almost like you'll have to come to the farm and we'll
Yeah.
have
Yeah,
to make it
yeah,
for you
yeah.
guys.
Well, because
I'd
in
love to.
fried rice there's egg, but
Yes.
that's kind of like scrambled and
Mhm,
chopped,
mhm.
and that's different.
It's
so,
all, my sister, it's all technique.
Yeah.
She's
all
had
technique.
like 60
It's
years of
very,
making these
very
eggs.
soft.
Yeah.
So in fried rice, I think the egg can get a little harder,
Right,
right? And
right.
that's what it's supposed to be. But this is totally different. I think another dish that is very famous is her tomato egg, which is actually a Taiwanese dish you can get at some restaurants, but
Asian staple,
nobody
yeah.
makes it as good as hers. I mean, it's basically just tomatoes. And I mean, it might sound a little weird, but it's like it's like an omelet, I guess.
Yeah.
Like you
Okay.
get
Essentially, it's like an omelet.
yeah, but it's also stir fried very fast, and the eggs like super silky
Yeah,
and
super
soft.
silky,
and-
creamy.
that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm nervous that I would never be able to recreate
Right.
it
I
because
know.
I don't have the technique with
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
yeah.
Actually, that's a great question. Like, do you know how to replicate it? We should probably learn, right? Before
Maybe when we go to the farm, she can teach us
But
and we
before,
can-
I mean, we always say like legacy and parents, like we should probably learn these things before our parents leave, are
Right.
gone.
I think that's
right?
like part of my reasoning for the YouTube channel because it's gonna be a lot of my mom's recipes that I can
It's
one day
so
pass down.
important.
Yeah.
I tell all of our
Yes.
guests this that, really, if you have those recipes, write them down because
Mm-hmm.
so many of us, our moms were like, oh, it's just a little bit of
Right.
this or a little bit of that, or it's written
Right.
on some 3x5 index card that's got stains on it. Like,
Yeah.
really, we're trying to
Mhm.
get everything uploaded
Mhm,
into the
mhm.
computer so that we
Yeah.
can preserve those. I would recommend
Yeah,
you do that.
definitely.
Although she's probably like, if she's such an intuitive cook, she's probably like, I don't know, I just throw
Exactly. She's like a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Totally.
Like,
how
You
does
just
that-
ask her like, well, what do you? And she's like, well, just watch, or
Yeah,
like,
right.
well,
Just eye
it's
it.
just
Oh,
just
yeah.
eyeball it. She
Oh,
says
yeah.
that a lot.
Yeah.
Eyeball,
eyeball
it.
it.
I'm like,
Right,
All
right.
chefs
Okay.
do, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, did she cook mainly Taiwanese, Chinese food, or did she cook American food as well?
Never American food.
No.
Never American.
No. I
Some
don't
kind
think
of
she
fusion
knows.
of it, but it's all majority
I don't think
based.
she knows how to.
Mm,
I mean,
Yeah.
when I got older, right, and like after law school, like I would come home, like sometimes I would make stuff for her, like
Mhm.
like spaghetti and
Yeah,
red sauce.
sure.
And she'd be like, oh, this is good. Like, tell me how to make it. Or clam chowder, right?
Sure.
That was my thing. I always make clam chowder for my dad because he loves it. So when I would be making, and I'm very like, I need a recipe. Like, that's how I cook, right? And so she would then say, she'll watch me cook it once, and then she'll like, oh, I got it. Like, she just knows like how to cook it, you know? And so like, she is like a master chef. I mean, there's no other way to describe her.
Amazing. And would she make your lunches every day and
for school?
Pack your lunches?
Oh, well, that's a great story. I actually don't know your answer. But for me, like, so in the very beginning, she would make me Chinese food.
Yeah.
And it would be smelly.
Yeah.
And I was the only Asian person growing up in Ontario. And that quickly stopped because people made fun of me.
Yeah.
And so then she would make me, so I told her, I was like, you got to make me sandwiches. And she's like, I don't know how to make sandwiches. So she made me tuna and egg salad sandwich.
This is even worse.
Yeah. But I loved it. It was okay. Like, I liked it. And I remember she always would use like aluminum foil instead of like baggies.
Wax paper baggies. Yeah.
Right. And you know, there's a smell and a taste to aluminum that to this day I will not pack stuff in aluminum.
Oh, that's funny.
Kind of metallic.
Do you know what I'm talking? Yes, type of a little metallic. I never liked it. I would tell her, and she was like, "That's what we're using." And I was like, "Okay."
Jeff, were the lunches different for you by the time you came around?
I think it was probably influenced by my sisters. I think more than anything else, I got school lunch, which I'm sure my parents were not happy about.
Yeah, she's like, I'm over this. I'm not getting up early for that.
But usually my two sisters, Tyler and Chris, would always pack me lunch. So it's more Americanized and stuff like that. So I didn't really get the my experience that Tyler got when I was younger. So
I bet you didn't pack it in foil, did you?
No. But you know, like, speaking of that, I mean, we made sure that Jeff had the type of American childhood that we didn't have, right? So for him, there was Santa and there was Easter Bunny and all of that, which my sister and I didn't get because my parents just didn't know that was a thing that they needed to do. But we always made sure his Christmases were very special.
Did your mom, was it easy for your mother to embrace the newer American traditions, or was there pushback with that when you were fighting to have Santa Claus for Jeff to have that experience?
Not that. I think like he's her baby, so like anything to make it special for him, like she'll be on board. But generally, I think American culture, American food, like she has a hard time kind of understanding it. We've had to kind of really educate her through the years, don't you think? Yeah,
I think so. I think it's gotten better over the years, but I think when I was also younger, I still remember that turmoil when the two cultures would clash. You know, she didn't really understand the basis of after school activities and stuff like that is more piano or studying and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You know, you had mentioned some of the hardships that you faced growing up to immigrant parents in a small town. So Jeffrey, I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on some of the Asian American cultural shifts that you experienced growing up.
That's a good question. I think elementary school was a little bit harder for me just because I think I was, like my sister, like one out of 500 kids, majority of them were Hispanic or Caucasian. And it was like 5 other Asian kids. And the culture wasn't really there and the bonding wasn't really there. So but basically when I got into middle school and high school, there were a lot more Asian kids. So I felt a little bit more integrated. I felt more at home. But it was always that griminess where I didn't really feel like there was a place that belonged. I think that's like a real theme in Asian American dynamics where we just don't feel at place. You know, we don't feel like there's a community, or we don't feel like I was at home.
Right.
You know, I think the part where I kind of grew up a little bit and moved out of the farm for a little bit, then coming home, I was like, I recognized like how much love there was at home, where I didn't really need all that other exterior stuff. I just compared to what other kids were having versus what I actually did have. And when I did have that shift in dynamic, I think it kind of opened up my heart to understand who my parents were and how much they did love me. Because, you know, I think majority of our challenges growing up, you know, throughout, you know, our human existence is understanding how much love there is and what kind of walls you have to remove to like embrace that love.
For sure.
I think, you know, looking back at our childhood, I mean, once I came to be with my parents, like I had an amazing childhood. You know, I didn't really know that we were like poor, right? Or that we were lacking in anything. It just never felt that way. My parents always, the only thing I cared about was having books and reading. So they always bought me books, right? Because they thought that was like a good investment. Like you can buy as many books as you want. And so it was almost like, yes, we did have this kind of like insular community of Chinese families that would gather around us. And, I think my experience was a little different than Geoff because I was older than him. I did grow up with a little bit of kids bullying me or making fun of me for being Asian, but it wasn't like forever. It wasn't all the time. I kind of just tuned it out, and I kind of made up for that for just being a really good student. That was always my drive. Like, I'm just going to show them I'm going to do really well in school. And so that was my motivation, right? Was I just want to basically, show that I'm not dumb, because in the first few years, because I wasn't speaking English, like that was what was.
That must have been hard.
Yeah. It was just like, you're so dumb, you don't speak English, right? Yeah. And I wasn't in ESL. Like, my parents didn't put me in ESL, and like, I don't know why the school didn't. So I basically white knuckled my way through it. I watch a lot of Three's Company and I Love Lucy. That's how I learned English a lot, was watching TV.
Wow. It's so beautiful to have these dinner parties and dinner every single night with all the courses and working on the farm and going to the swap meets together. I'm sure it was not always easy growing up, but it made probably for a very close family.
Yeah, we're still definitely very close.
Yeah. What does Mama Sherry make for the Lunar New Year? Is there a traditional spread that she cooks?
So there is. Do you want to talk about the vocal?
There's a lot. I think it kind of revolves around my mom's current, what she's excited to make. Basically, one staple is sticky rice, like sesame sticky rice. We'll definitely have to make you some when you guys come over. There's all this pork, fish, everything. It just depends on what she's made over the years. I think one big staple is she has this sea bass dish, which has a miso marinade. It's like one of the best things you guys have to try as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be on my before I die, I have to eat again.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And will you all go to the farm to celebrate?
So the tradition is that the family is supposed to gather on New Year's Eve.
Okay.
Right. Because that there's a lot of, superstition and traditions. But one of the things is if you gather at home the night before New Year's, then that means you'll be together all year long, right? And so what we typically do for New Year's is we do hot pot, it's called in Chinese. And so my mom has, you can get hot pot anywhere, right?
She has hot pots at her house?
Oh, we do it all the time.
Wow.
We do too in our own family. Like my kids in our culture love it.
Don't you need a special table for it?
No. You can buy it on Amazon. You just buy a little. It's almost like an electric, top,
burner.
and then you put a burner, and then you just put a big pot on top, and then we have all the sliced beef and the vegetables. But my mom's is so special because she makes this special sauce, this sauté sauce that you can't, there's a raw egg in it. No one can replicate. Anyone who comes to our house and has that sauce, they're like, we want to come back.
Yeah. What's it
What
called?
do you dip in the sauce? Everything?
Everything.
Yeah.
Like the fish balls, the sliced
veggies,
meat, all the vegetables from our farm, so it's a very special meal.
Does the sauce have a name, like an official name, or is it something she really created?
Mom's secret sauce?
Mom's secret sauce.
Okay. Your mom's super talented with eggs, it sounds like. That's like her wheelhouse.
I think eggs, it's the fat, it's just like it makes everything taste special.
Eggs are very easy to mess up, but very hard to get right.
That's sure. I'm always intimidated. And we never grew up with eggs really in our life. Like, breakfast was not a thing in our family on the weekdays or the weekends. So we didn't ever master the egg.
I work on it a lot these days.
I
I'll
do
make
too now.
French omelets and stuff like that, just for fun, to try and, get it right. But the hot pot, I was going to ask you, so the broth that goes in the hot pot, is it a chicken broth, a beef broth, a flavor? Is it water?
So my mom's is also very special. Like, she will basically simmer pork bones, right, for days, right? And
it's like a bone broth.
Yeah, her bone broth is amazing. Mine's out of a box.
Right.
But it is bone broth. It's chicken. It's chicken bone broth, But like, a lot of ramen places who have great ramen, it's like because the broth is amazing.
Yes.
And so my mom definitely will spend a lot of time making that broth before. So, it's a few days from now, Lunar New Year. So she's probably starting to make that broth.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm sure your kids love that too. going
They
on.
do.
Yeah.
She does a special thing for them. It's like ground pork that's like stir fry forever, and then it's in soy sauce. And she'll make udon noodles and then just put that over dried. And it's just like, that's all they ever want to eat.
So good. I'm so hungry.
Yes.
We're going to need to get some of the recipes that are as best we can, maybe a recipe or two to put up on our website. That we can try to,
for sure. But we'll tell my mom and she'll be like, just bring them over. I'll just feed them. I'll just feed them.
Yes. Well, we were going to plan that. We had a date to do that. And I think we all got sick, or it was the holiday time that didn't work. But we're going to definitely do that again. Well, what is this gift that you brought us today? This is exciting.
So, like I said, food is our love language, right? Gifts are our love language. So I wanted to bring you our favorite Taiwanese pineapple cakes. And they go great with a cup of coffee or tea.
Oh, thank you.
And it's just got this crumbly crust, and it's good luck to eat pineapples. And with New Year coming up, I wanted to make sure always eat something sweet on the day of New Year's.
Okay.
Spend New Year's Day the way you want to spend your whole year, right? Be with loved ones, eat something sweet, eat good food. Wear an outfit that's new, right?
Okay.
So that you always have like beautiful new clothes, and spend it the way you want to spend the rest of your year. That's what I always tell people, and they love that. So yeah.
So many of my Asian friends always tell me they're very superstitious. That's part of the culture. Is Mama Sherry a superstitious woman?
Yes,
more than anybody I've ever known.
Like it's really, really awful. Okay, no, because I grew up with it, and I really try to not give it to my kids. Like they're just absurd. Right?
Like what?
Do not cut your nails after sunset. Because then you won't see your parents pass away. Like they won't be there when they're passing away. I mean, there's so much rooted in like the parent thing, like that's like a big one for me. And you know what? I do not cut my kids' nails after sunset. And it's like I can't So what I do is I don't tell my kids my superstitions. I will follow them, but I won't tell them what they are, because they're just like, you don't need that kind of like noise in your head.
That's one I have not heard before.
I have not heard that.
It's so absurd. It's absurd.
Yeah.
What are some that she impresses on you?
For me, it was I couldn't have houseplants. So when I moved out,
no houseplants.
Oh, I remember this.
My house was filled with like indoor plants because I have green thumb from my dad. So there was this one houseplant that would.
It was a vine.
That was vine.
Like the ivy. Yeah. It was beautiful.
Around my room. Like literally like probably 30, 40 feet of vines. And I just wrapped around them. My mom's like, no, you got to take that down. It's bad feng shui. That means you're going to get wrapped up in too many bad stuff, and it's going to keep you there.
Which, by the way, is probably not untrue.
Okay.
Now that we're looking back at what happened.
Okay. Yes. I believe in that stuff. I'm a little woo-woo like that. So the feng shui stuff I can get behind. Your mom sounds like a really strong woman to go from a childhood that was less than ideal to having to live with a family that wasn't her own, to meeting your father, raising you 3 wonderful kids, and continuing to show so much love through her food and all that she does, really. So
we'll have to show you a picture, because my mom is like 5 foot nothing.
Yeah.
And my dad is like 6'2".
Oh, wow.
So it's like, I mean, he's shrunk, but it's just like there's this huge gap between them. But my mom has always been like the force, the rock, and my dad just like kind of just lets her do her thing, like just doesn't really like say anything.
Yeah.
And she ran the show.
Should we move on to rapid fire?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, we like to end the show with some rapid fire questions for you both. So, Tyler, give me one word to describe Mama Sherry.
Like a powerhouse, I think, is a good word for her.
Yeah. Geoff?
Love.
Love.
Recognizing that there's no person that's going to love you more than your mom. So
that is true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Geoff, what's one trait that you got from Mama Sherry?
Good or bad?
Either. I would say good, but if you maybe bad too.
Good. All right. So good is definitely the giving nature. Mom's always a giver. Our whole family's a giver. Bad, I think goes along with a superstition. We're kind of paranoid sometimes. So
I did not know that. Okay. About you. Okay.
Oh, we're learning stuff from everyone.
Tyler, what's one trait you get from Mama Sherry?
I think we'll do both, right? Good is just kind of a deep love of my kids and just providing that home. And I cook dinner every night for my kids. So I think I get that from my Even though Terrence is an amazing cook, but bad is like just I'm a worrywart. My mom worries a lot. She's very like anxious, and so that's something I've had to reprogram my brain to not be anymore. I think I'm much less now, but younger I would worry about everything.
Yeah. Geoff, what's your favorite vegetable on the farm?
My favorite vegetable
Or fruit.
on the farm. It would probably be bamboo, to be honest. I think just because it's not a normal veggie you would have.
Do you eat it?
Yeah. You eat it, yeah.
How do you prepare it?
Stir fry, usually, or soups, salads.
Like bamboo shoots.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love
Yeah.
those. Oh, my God. What am I thinking? Of course. Yeah. I have like so many of them in my pantry. I use them all the time.
Yeah. I think it's just definitely unique just because you get it super fresh. In the
I love the
supermarket, you
texture.
get it usually dried or preserved and stuff like that. So there's a different texture and different taste when you get
Sure.
it. Yeah.
I bet.
Oh, I can't wait to come to the farm and try that.
Yeah.
What about you, Tyler? What's your favorite fruit or vegetable from the farm?
Probably the bamboo too.
Oh,
only
wow.
because we don't have a lot of it now. I
Right.
think there's maybe only a couple.
A small batch.
Like a small batch. I mean, it used to be 2 acres.
Oh, wow.
Less. But yeah, I think the bamboo, there's a great peach that was actually a gift.
Nectarine.
It was a wedding gift from Terrence's boss. And we couldn't grow in Santa Monica because we didn't have land. So we took it home to my parents, and my dad planted it. And that's my dad's magic. He's like, he like brought it back to life because it was kind of like wilting and dying. And we're like, save it. So he put it into the ground, and now we're going to have our 15-year anniversary. So it's been 15 years of nectarine.
Oh, that's
Oh, I
really
love
beautiful.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
so sweet. Tyler, what's the best advice that Mama Sherry has ever given you?
Actually, this is really great. She gave me kind of the 90-10 ratio. She said, because right before Terrence, I was going through a terrible breakup with this man who I was like trying to save, right? Like we're trying to, like us, the oldest, we're like motherly. And she said, it shouldn't be this hard. When you're dating someone, it should be 90% good and 10% hard, because my ratio was flipped with that man.
Right.
And so then I was like, oh, and so I tell this to my kids, I tell this to Geoff, like I've said it to you several times, like if it's hard now when you're dating, it's going to be really hard when you're married with kids.
Yeah.
So the 90-10 was the best advice she gave me.
That's great advice.
That is great.
Geoff, any advice that Mama's given you that you can think of?
Sometimes I'm usually a hardhead, so I don't really listen well to her. But I think I wouldn't say she's vocally giving me advice, but I always observed the way she moves and how she gets, I guess, to your soft spot. I think that but definitely when I was younger, I think one of my core memories of Mom was us driving home from the swap meet. I had fallen asleep on the way home, and when I woke up, I just saw my mom just looking at me. And I think that was one of the core memories of me feeling safe and loved. So I guess going back to the question of what kind of best advice that I got from my mom is, love doesn't always come from words, but it comes from actions.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You might have a hard head, but you've got a big, soft heart,
Wow.
don't you?
Yeah.
You really do.
You
You're a
do.
Zen person too, I can tell.
Get from both
Yes.
of them,
Yeah. I love it.
Tyler, tell us where our listeners can find you.
Thank you. I'm on YouTube, and my handle is Tyler Chou, the creator's attorney, because when it used to be just Tyler, the creator's attorney, that was like a whole thing. Because they're like, wait, are you Tyler, the creator's attorney? I'm like, no. So I had to put my last name in there. You can find me on Instagram or LinkedIn. I'm actually quite active on LinkedIn. And actually, to my followers and subscribers, I will have more consistent videos coming out. And I'm actually working on something really special. I'm creating a community for my audience to be able to actually have live access to me every week.
Wow.
It's going to be called the 7-Figure Creator. The 7-Figure Creator is going to be on Mighty Networks, which is a platform that a lot of creators use. So I'm really excited to be working with them and bringing that to people, because I think creators need different ways to make money.
Amazing.
Thank
Geoff,
you.
where can we find you? Any additional information you'd like to share?
My socials going to be Grubbing with Geoff, Geoff with the G. So you can just find me on there. And I definitely want to thank all you guys. I know how hard it is to create a business, and take the time, and kind of it takes a piece for your soul to create a better piece for yourself. So thank you guys.
We like to
Thank
honor
you.
mamas here,
Of
and you
course.
too did an incredible job of paying tribute to Mama Sherry. And if there's anything else you want to share about her or your family before we wrap it up, let us know.
One of the harder things I think for us is, and it ties back to what Geoff was saying about, sometimes the love that we feel is not necessarily with words or verbally, because they don't speak English. We can't really have deep philosophical conversations with them.
Sure.
I can speak Taiwanese a little more deeply than Geoff, but sometimes a lot of that love is almost just felt. Do you know what I mean? We're there and we just feel it, and so my parents are amazing parents, and we're so lucky to have them. And I think we maybe didn't appreciate that until we were older, which
Or
is
understand it, really.
or
probably.
understand it, right?
Mhm.
Because we didn't hear those words. We didn't hear "I love you," right? That was
Right.
something I introduced into our family.
Huh.
I would say it to my parents, and I don't think they ever say it back, but they're like, and it's just like, and so I think this idea that love is like, it's like permeates everything. It doesn't need to
Yes.
be said so much. And I think
Yeah.
my parents really
It's understood.
taught us that.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah. How about you?
Kind of going on to the basis of like one of my core memories. I think one of my core memories was with Tyler. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I think I was like in first grade, and I think you came home from Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I had the flu one day, and I think mom and dad were also out doing whatnot, and I guess you tucked me into bed, and you got my favorite toy, and you put it right next to me and said, I'm here to protect you. And I think that's one of like my core memories, and I think that also permeates to the understanding of love doesn't really have one box to it, where you kind of see.
That's really
I get to
sweet.
see different types of love, and I got to see different types of love from everybody in my life.
Sure.
So this is a thank you to you.
Oh,
And in a
That's
way,
so
it kind of like what
cry.
I'm like sort of gathering is that, Tyler really was sort of this conduit between your parents' love and expressing love to you, because you were so much younger than her. And with the English barrier, you were able to sort of, I don't know, doesn't it feel like you were like taking that love that you knew existed from your parents and maybe able to verbally articulate
Yes.
it to
Mhm.
Geoff, which
Yeah.
is really special.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. I mean, this has been
Thank
so
you.
special.
Thank you so much for sharing. Super
Yes.
interesting.
It's been
We're going to
great.
need some recipes.
Yes.
And we can't wait to come to the farm.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes. Well, let's end it like we always do. I love you. I love your show.
I love you. I love your show. We're going to get into these pineapple cakes too.
Yes.
Yeah.